listen closely, because certain moments arrive in your life that don't feel normal. They press on your spirit in a way you can't explain. A sudden discomfort, a quiet confusion, or a sharp insight that appears out of nowhere. These moments are not random. They are signals. They are warnings. They are the inner alarms that activate when something in your path is not aligned with your higher purpose. I am Shi Heng Yi, and today I want to guide you into a deeper understanding of these hidden signals. Many people think that divine guidance comes as loud miracles or dramatic signs, but in truth, God rarely speaks with noise. He speaks through disturbances in your peace. In Shaolin teachings, we call these moments the subtle strokes of awareness, vibrations your spirit senses long before your mind has time to react. There are ancient records from the monasteries describing warriors who survived danger not because they saw the threat, but because they felt something shift inside their chest a few seconds before. That inner alarm saved their lives. And even today, this same mechanism is alive within you. In this video, you will learn why these inner alarms appear, how to recognize the difference between fear and divine guidance, and how to respond with clarity instead of panic. You will also discover the hidden traps that often show up right before a major spiritual breakthrough, and how a chosen soul can sense danger before it becomes visible. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand this, you will no longer walk blindly. You will walk with eyes open, grounded, and protected. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If you feel called to this teaching, subscribe and continue walking this path with us. There comes a moment when you must ask yourself, is this obstacle in front of me, or is it rising from within me? This question lies at the heart of understanding spiritual traps. Most people look for danger outside. Other people, situations, sudden challenges. But in the Shaolin path, the deepest traps are not external. They are inner patterns, subtle loops of thought and emotion that pull you back into who you used to be. A trap is anything that attempts to drag your spirit downward, weaken your intention, or disconnect you from clarity. In the ancient stories of the temple, young disciples believed their greatest threats were the tests from their masters or the hardships of training. But with time, they learned something far more profound. The real struggle was against the familiar voices inside them, the doubts, the habits, the impulses that whispered, "Stay where you are, do not grow, do not rise." This is the nature of a spiritual trap. It doesn't always appear as danger. Often it arrives disguised as comfort, or a return to old emotional reactions, or an invitation to repeat a cycle you thought you had already escaped. Shaolin teachings say that when your energy begins to rise, when your discipline becomes strong, the old patterns do not disappear quietly. They try to reclaim you. They try to convince you that you are the same person you once were. The trap is not the event. The trap is how easily the mind falls back into its old shape. So the practice becomes awareness, recognizing the things that drain your strength, the thoughts that steal your focus, the emotions that scatter your discipline. When you can see these patterns clearly, they lose their power. When you face them with calm attention, they cannot pull you backward anymore. This is how the chosen one continues forward. Awareness is the shield that arrives before any danger ever touches you. It is the first defense, the quiet guardian that stands between you and the traps that try to pull you back into old ways of being. In the Shaolin temples, young disciples are not first taught how to strike, block, or move with power. They are taught how to notice. A master would say, "If you learn to see the leaf tremble before the wind arrives, nothing can surprise you." This was not poetry, it was survival, and it was spiritual training. Awareness starts with something simple, observing your own inner world. Noticing your thoughts before they gather momentum. Noticing your breath before it becomes shallow. Noticing your reactions before they take control. One old teaching describes it like watching ripples on the surface of a still pond. The pond itself is your mind. A single thought, left unseen, creates movement, and that movement becomes emotion, behavior, consequence. But if you notice the first ripple, you can calm the water before it distorts your perception. When a person loses awareness, they fall into traps without realizing it. They react impulsively, repeat old patterns, and allow their emotions to lead them into situations that weaken their energy. But when awareness is active, even a small internal shift becomes visible. A tightening in the stomach, a change in breathing, a sudden thought that doesn't match your true self. These signals are not random. They are warnings. They are your spirit speaking. With disciplined awareness, you begin to see problems long before they manifest. You sense when a conversation is turning, when a decision is pulling you off your path, or when someone's energy is draining your strength. This clarity gives you the power to choose differently, to stay grounded, to stay aligned, and to stay awake on your journey of mastery. There is a guidance within you that does not compete for your attention. It does not shout, push, or demand. It simply waits quietly for the moment when your mind becomes still enough to hear it. Intuition is often misunderstood as sudden flashes of insight or dramatic revelations, but divine guidance in its truest form is gentle. It moves like a soft breeze brushing against the edge of your awareness. In Shaolin teachings, this guidance is described as the voice beneath the noise, the signal that appears only when the mind is not crowded by emotion or fear. In the early temple years, disciples were trained to sit in silence for long periods, not to escape life, but to sharpen the ability to perceive the faintest signals inside themselves. A master once said, "When the mind becomes loud, truth hides. When the mind becomes quiet, truth steps forward." This became a foundational teaching. Quietness is not weakness. Quietness is clarity. Intuition speaks through subtle warnings, an uneasiness in your chest, a hesitation before taking a step, a whisper of doubt that feels different from fear. These small signals are easy to overlook, especially when the world around you moves quickly and demands quick reactions. But the quieter the mind becomes, the more these signals stand out, like lanterns glowing in the dark. There is a moment, just before any mistake or misalignment, when your intuition softly calls you back. It is not dramatic, it is not forceful, it simply offers a feeling. Something here is not right. Many people override this feeling. They trust logic, desire, or habit instead. But mastery comes from honoring these subtle inner truths. Trust the whisper, trust the gentle pull. Trust the quiet voice that asks you to pause, breathe, and choose differently. In that stillness, divine guidance becomes unmistakable. The moments that shake you the most are often the moments that reveal the trap. Not a trap built by others, but a trap crafted by your own emotions. Old reactions waiting for the right pressure to pull you back into patterns you thought you'd outgrown. In Shaolin teaching, emotional reactivity is seen as one of the most deceptive obstacles. It arrives disguised as urgency, heat, or righteousness. It convinces the mind that reacting quickly is the only option. But in truth, these sharp emotional spikes are not signs to move faster. They are signs to be still. The masters of the temple trained for years not just in martial skill, but in emotional control. Their discipline required them to remain calm even when provoked, insulted, or challenged. One of the earliest lessons given to new disciples was simple: before you move, breathe. Before you respond, listen. This practice wasn't meant to suppress emotion, it was meant to expose the trap hidden inside it. Emotional triggers are invitations. They pull at your pride, your fear, your impatience. They tempt you to abandon clarity and fall back into the habits that once defined you. The moment you feel pushed, pressured, or pulled off center, that is the exact moment the trap becomes visible. In those brief seconds, the path divides. One path leads to reaction, a return to noise, conflict, and the past. The other leads to mastery, marked by stillness, presence, and conscious choice. The Shaolin way teaches that the power is not in avoiding emotions, but in understanding them, seeing the trigger as a signal rather than an instruction. When you pause, even for a single breath, the spell breaks. The trap loses its grip. Your awareness returns. And in that calm space, you reclaim your ability to choose rather than be driven. There are moments when the world presses against you, not with force, but with feeling. A sudden spark of anger, a wave of frustration, a tightening in the chest that urges you to act without thinking. These are not coincidences. They are the first signs of a spiritual trap. In Shaolin understanding, the most dangerous traps are not physical, they are emotional. A simple word, a small disappointment, a quiet fear. These can pull the mind into old patterns more effectively than any external challenge. Emotional triggers disguise themselves as urgent truths, convincing you that you must respond immediately. But urgency is rarely wisdom, and intensity is rarely clarity. There's an old story from the temple about a young disciple who was quick to react. Whenever he felt challenged, his body moved before his mind caught up. One day, a master placed a cup of water before him and said, "Strike it." The disciple reacted instantly, sending water scattering across the floor. The master then placed another cup before him and said, "Now breathe." The cup remained still. The disciple understood. Emotional reactivity is like that first strike, fast, powerful, but blind. It breaks more than it protects. Shaolin discipline teaches the opposite approach. Pause before responding. Observe before deciding. Allow the first wave of emotion to pass through your breath before you give it movement. The moment you feel provoked or pressured is the exact moment the trap becomes visible. It is the alarm that tells you something inside wants to pull you back. If you can pause, even briefly, you interrupt the pattern. You return to awareness. You step out of the old version of yourself and into the mastery you've been cultivating. In this stillness, the trap dissolves, and you remain in control. Urgency is a shadow that often hides the truth. It presses on the chest, quickens the heartbeat, and whispers that action must be immediate. Yet in the realm of inner mastery, this pressure is rarely guidance. It is a trap. Many spiritual pitfalls arrive disguised as urgency, convincing the mind to bypass reflection, to skip breath, and to surrender clarity for speed. Shaolin teachings have long emphasized the opposite. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The masters understood that haste clouds perception, while calm reveals every detail. In the monasteries, students were taught to move deliberately, to breathe with intention, and to let thought and action align perfectly before taking the next step. There are accounts of warriors who, in moments of apparent danger, paused just long enough to sense the true path and avoid calamity, while those who rushed suffered consequences that could have been avoided with patience. Spiritual traps work the same way. They provoke a false urgency, making the heart race, the mind spiral, and the soul act before it sees. The moment you feel this push to act immediately, it is an invitation to test your discipline, to cultivate the mind that does not yield to the pressure of time, the mind that breathes through every impulse, and the body that responds only when fully aligned. In this stillness, the illusion dissolves. Decisions become clear, actions precise, and the false urgency reveals itself for what it is, a mirror showing the difference between instinct and mastery. By honoring the pause, by respecting the rhythm of breath and thought, you step out of the trap and into clarity, navigating every challenge not as a reaction but as a conscious choice. Energy is the quiet current that carries the mind, body, and spirit forward. When it flows freely, clarity, strength, and presence follow naturally. But not all currents are pure. Some are drained, diverted, or blocked by the world around us. People who bring constant drama, environments filled with chaos, and habits that scatter focus can silently steal this energy without notice. Shaolin monks have long understood this. They protect their vitality not through force but through discipline, by setting boundaries, controlling breath, and directing intention. A temple story tells of a young monk who felt exhausted even after rest. The master observed him and asked, "Where does your energy linger?" The answer was not in enemies or battles. It was in the endless chatter he allowed into his mind, in the tension he carried from the world outside, and in the distractions he had accepted as routine. From that day, the disciple learned to guard his energy as he would a precious flame, to notice where it contracted, where it dimmed, and where it expanded. Breath became a tool of reclamation, each inhale a filling of strength, each exhale a release of what did not serve him. Boundaries were not walls, but careful choices of where presence was given and where it was preserved. Observing energy in this way cultivates self-mastery. You begin to sense the subtle drains before they fully deplete you, to recognize situations or people that contract your spirit, and to embrace what nourishes and expands it. Guarding energy is not selfish, it is an ancient practice of survival, awareness, and alignment. In learning where your energy thrives and where it falters, every action becomes measured, every choice intentional, and the path of spiritual growth remains strong, resilient, and unwavering. There is a place within each of us that remains untouched by chaos, distraction, or fear. It is the center, the still point where clarity arises and presence is fully felt. Returning to the center is not a grand ritual, it is a simple, deliberate act, practiced quietly in the Shaolin tradition for centuries. The masters often remind their disciples, one slow breath can reset the mind. Inhale deeply, feeling the air fill the body, carrying tension outward. Exhale fully, letting the world's noise fall away. With the breath comes the second step, one clear thought. This thought is not cluttered by past regrets or future worries. It is precise, intentional, a signal of the mind aligned with purpose. The final step is one grounded intention. Here, the body, mind, and spirit unite in a conscious choice. How to move forward, what energy to carry, what presence to embody. Ancient stories speak of warriors and monks standing at the edge of conflict or decision, overwhelmed by circumstance, yet finding power in returning to center. In that stillness, they perceived what had been hidden, the small shifts in their environment, the intentions of others, the truth of their own hearts. The mind, previously clouded, became like a calm lake reflecting the sky. What was missed in distraction became evident, and action flowed naturally, without hesitation or error. For the chosen one, centering is a shield and a compass. It allows discernment where confusion once reigned, strength where doubt threatened, and clarity where fear attempted to cloud vision. This practice does not take long, yet its effects ripple through every choice, every thought, every movement. With a slow breath, a focused thought, and a grounded intention, the inner alarm quiets, the mind sharpens, and the path forward reveals itself in stillness. Returning to center is the secret that allows mastery to rise above chaos. Life often places challenges before you that feel like traps, but they are rarely what they seem. In Shaolin philosophy, many of these moments are tests of alignment, subtle examinations of whether you have truly grown beyond old patterns. They arrive not as dramatic disasters, but as quiet reflections, opportunities to see the difference between who you are now and who you were. Ancient masters taught that every test is a mirror. A student might face the same frustration, the same temptation, or the same emotional trigger that once controlled them. At first, it feels familiar, even threatening. But the true question is not the circumstance, it is how you respond. Do you fall back into the habits of the past, or do you meet the moment with the calm, disciplined presence you have cultivated? One story speaks of a monk who returned to the village where he had once been lost to anger and pride. He was confronted with the same provocations that had once driven him to conflict. This time, however, he paused, breathed, and observed. Nothing could shake him. The village had not changed. The challenge was not punishment, nor was it misfortune. It was a test, an opportunity to witness his own transformation. Shaolin teachings remind us that a true path strengthens rather than diminishes. If a situation leaves the spirit depleted, it is a sign that it is not yours to carry. If instead it allows calm awareness and focus to emerge, it confirms growth. Each test is a quiet invitation to discern alignment, to recognize when the soul is in harmony with purpose, and to step forward without repeating cycles that no longer serve. Through these tests, mastery is revealed not in avoiding difficulty, but in navigating it with clarity and integrity. The mirror shows the chosen one exactly who they have become, and whether the path ahead is worthy of their spirit. True power does not come from acting first, but from choosing wisely. Instinct is fast, immediate, and often blind. It reacts to the surface of life without perceiving its depth. Mastery, on the other hand, moves with awareness. It observes before responding, measures before acting, and aligns each choice with purpose. This is the path of the chosen ones, the ones who rise above the pull of habit and impulse. In Shaolin teachings, disciples spend years training the body, mind, and spirit, not just to move with skill, but to cultivate self-control. One story tells of a young monk standing at the edge of a rushing river. He was asked to cross it, but the current was swift, the rocks slippery. His instinct urged him forward, fast, confident, and reckless. But his master instructed him to pause, to breathe, and to sense the water's rhythm. Only after attuning himself to the river's flow did he step forward safely. His survival was not luck, it was mastery over instinct. Every challenge in life is like that river. Instinct tempts with speed, urgency, or force, but mastery chooses reflection first. It asks, what is truly required here? What serves the highest path? How can I act without falling into the patterns of the past? Each pause, each moment of deliberate awareness transforms reaction into intention. The chosen ones understand that discipline is not restriction, it is freedom. By replacing reaction with reflection and impulse with intention, they reclaim the energy often lost to habit. They act from clarity, not chaos, and their steps ripple with purpose. In practice, mastery is quiet but undeniable. It is the steady heart in moments of pressure, the measured word in the face of provocation, and the unwavering presence in the midst of uncertainty. Choosing mastery over instinct is the defining quality of those who rise, those who endure, and those who see the path that others cannot. Divine guidance is always present, quietly guiding those who are willing to listen. It speaks not with force, but through intuition. Subtle warnings and moments of discomfort that invite reflection. Throughout this journey, Shaolin principles, awareness, discipline, centered breath, and protection of your energy serve as tools to navigate these signals. They allow the chosen one to see traps before stepping into them, to respond with clarity instead of impulse, and to move through life with purpose and presence. The path of mastery is not complicated. It begins with slowing down, observing deeply, and aligning every choice with your higher self. By practicing these principles daily, even in small moments, you strengthen your inner clarity and resilience. Each pause, each breath, each mindful decision becomes a step toward greater freedom and understanding. Carry this wisdom into your life. Notice the subtle signals, honor your energy, and allow stillness to guide your actions. In time, you will find that challenges no longer dictate your path, they reveal it. If this teaching resonates, join our community by subscribing to Shaolin Soulfire. Let these lessons guide your journey and return often to cultivate calm, clarity, and mastery in every aspect of life.